What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Outcast Haven podcast. We're here for episode number 19. We're going to talk some DBS tonight. We have lots of stuff on the table to talk about. We're going to talk about the meta. We got an expansion set coming out. We got Draft Box 6. We're going to talk about how that's affecting the meta. We are practiced and ready to go. This is the most practiced podcast ever because tonight has been a night about the cursed podcast, and we're just going to get it started. So, Dane, say what's up.
What's going on, guys?
We got Bergie.
Hello.
And the one and only Robert.
I was sleeping last week. Turns out I had the germ, but I'm back. Or was
He's
it 2
back.
weeks ago? I'm back.
2 weeks ago.
That was 2 weeks ago.
2 weeks ago. All right, so we're going to kick it off with a meta discussion and talk about, based on tournament play, what are the best decks in the format right now? Not what could be the best decks, not what do you think plays well into the meta, but what are the best decks in the format right now? Bergie, what are the best decks in the format? Best in blue, what is it?
Soul Striker based off of results, Vegito off of personal preference.
And what are you playing?
SS3. I think he's top 5.
Top 5 in
Top
blue.
5 blue?
Top 5 blue. Dude, I think he's up there on the tier list. Don't get me wrong. I think that leader's really good. I just need to get better at it and just understand the lines better.
I just ran through blue leaders. I think he is number 5. So
Yeah.
that's funny. Of just blue.
Oh, really?
Look at me. I'm out here.
Who's better than that?
Baby did better than.
Oh, that's fair. I
SS3.
guess Baby.
This deck would stomp Baby. Baby, I don't understand what is going on. I'm
All
so
right,
confused
question.
why people Baby
Same.
is winning.
Well, Baby's winning because Baby says no, and people like to say no. You would
Our turn. Our turn.
know. Is Soul Striker Rangers blue?
Is it blue? No, Rangers are black. Soul Striker's blue. So it's like a mix. Yes, I'm going to be building that, by the way. That is definitely because
I know your Baby is 10-day Rangers, so got to give a shout out to the Arizona tournament and the Soul Striker Rangers.
Yep. As soon as I saw that, I got pumped up because I didn't think about it because of being a moron. But I saw that and I was like, God, yes, that does what Dende does. It doesn't draw as much as like a Wish Leader does in general in the way I had my Dende built, but I still think consistency's sake, just getting the 2 energy multiple turns, like it's gonna be. I see exactly why I did well. Yeah, I'm building that.
What do you? So if that's, do you think if we're talking about green, is Gotenk still the best green deck, or do you think Majin Vegeta has an argument to be made to start creeping in on that?
That's a good
Reboot
point.
Gohan is the best green deck.
Yeah.
Let's just be clear.
Yes. Yeah. Like,
Even
think
I know. So Reboot Gohan, right? It's a green deck, but can we be honest and say that Reboot Gohan is like a different? It's not any color. It's just Reboot Gohan, and then there's the meta, and Reboot Gohan every now and then just like cuts the meta off because no one's paying attention, and then you honk at them and you're like, oh wait, they've been here the whole time. They were right next to me the whole time. I just wasn't paying attention when they cut in. They had their blinker on the whole thing. I just wasn't paying attention.
That's a good analogy, actually. Yeah, I think that because I feel like in new format, it's just like you've got those people that love Reboot Gohan, and they're like, all right, first tournament, new format. Let's just go crush people that don't know quite how to play the deck into Reboot Gohan, and then they do, and then people learn.
It's a new format though because Ali has just been crushing people for months now.
I know.
Just
Yeah, it's fair.
straight up taking lunch money. And I'm not gonna lie, I'm playing Vegex because I'm not good enough to homebrew, and even with Vegex, I'm not that great. But I got Reboot Gohan, and my Vegex is fast, but Reboot Gohan was faster. It was like I felt like my Porsche was like a Toyota Camry, and I just ate it to the face.
Yeah.
Reboot Gohan's existence, just its entire existence as a deck, is the reason that Yellow runs Release from Evil. Because it's like your one Hail Mary, because I have no negates that can stop it. Like I don't have like you can't swing again. So they can, if they think they ran me out of the gates, they can just restand and go for game and just absolutely end me. Whereas with Release from Evil, I'm just like, no. So do you think Do you think that there are decks that should be in the meta that aren't? Like, is there something that's just not getting played?
I'm going to pause there because got to give Blake, all the due respect and recognition of him topping with Sin Shenron and punishing us all here. We've all
Was it
taken a
worth it,
beating,
Blake?
but we're
Was it
very
worth
proud of
it?
you. Was it worth ruining our friendship for you to top the tournament?
Hey, I play Invoker. I'm fine with it.
Yeah, I mean, Bergie doesn't care if I play Invoker. The problem is, like, everybody else goes, oh, Invoker, cool. I just have to go fast. And I go, yes, get rid of Invoker for me. And I go to Top Cut and I don't care. Like, Invoker's not here. We're living, baby.
Yeah.
So I do think Sin Shenron's very strong into the meta. It does have a lot of answers to your point with Release from Evil. So do want to give you a shout out for, leading our team to victory. But also it being relevant in the meta before we move on to things that we think should be in the meta.
Yeah,
Yep.
I think Sin is the yellow deck of choice for yellow players. I think it's the best control deck in the format. I think Invoker still is going to hang out on the fringe always, because if you're not ready for Invoker, as soon as people start, Invoker does basically with it Apex, right? What like Gohan does is, if you're not ready for it and you decide like, I haven't really seen Invoker, we're going to take that drop negate out. It's just like Invoker just smiles in Apex, and it's like, oh no, they're gonna play Apex and I can't negate it, and you just, it's over. So it's like Invoker's always gonna exist because Apex and Catastrophic Blow are just absolutely absurd.
It's kind of like the opposite bit of Gohan, right? It's like you got Gohan on this side and you got Invoker on this side, and then they're both eyeing up the format, and then they're just like, oh, okay, all right, time to go, let's go. Let's just hop in there.
The rest of us have to play in these terrible guardrails.
Yeah.
It's like, avoid the Gohan, avoid the Invoker.
And the worst part is like
playing
them is so different. Like it's like one is trying to kill you immediately, and the other one is just telling you no, is just like spraying you with a spray bottle. Like you're like, I'm gonna play this card. Like, no. You're just like, you're just hanging out, and then they just go, and then when you're not paying attention, you're like the cat that they just kicked. They're like, cat blow, you said.
We're gonna let you play it, but then we're gonna sleepy boy it.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
You're like, all right, cool, I played my card. Swing lead, then sleepy boy, draw two. You're like,
I just need you to have another card so I could draw two more. It's not a big deal.
Yeah.
No, I back to your original question.
Yeah,
which because it actually raises a good point that I want to bring up, is the Gotenks green versus Majin Vegeta, right? Because Robert stated, I think Gohan is kind of, if we're just talking green leaders, that's the strongest green leader. But I think Majin Vegeta is probably gonna, because Gotenks does one thing, right? Like it plays at 6 drops, gets to Xeno, right? And it is very consistent about doing that one thing. If it's playing a deck that lets it do it, right? Because we were talking earlier, and you said that it's got really, really good matchups and it's got bad matchups, and you're gonna sit down across from it and either be excited or dread it. And I feel like Majin Vegeta is a lot more flexible. I played it last weekend. I didn't do super hot with it. I realized now I was trying to do way too much cutesy stuff with it, because I stripped out like a lot of like these two cards will answer this, and because it is so flexible, and it does have like the deck space to really let you kind of build it how you want to build it. But I almost think it can be kind of a trap. So me falling back on my consistency shtick, I rebuilt it, and it just already felt a lot better. And testing it with the new expansion cards, which we'll get into later in the podcast, just increase the consistency even that much more. So but I think that Majin Vegeta is going to surpass Gotenks. I think that Majin Vegeta is going to prove to be a stronger deck in the long run, just because of the flexibility it offers.
Blake and Dane, since you guys had it, can we just find the Bergie segment where he goes off about his love for Gotenks that has quickly and already dated? just cut it in right here and be like, I love making Wayne cry. It's so awesome.
Well, I'm going to make Wayne cry now with blue, so it's fine.
It's the Bergie, making Wayne cry that it's good.
So if you want to blame anybody for the Gotenks, for him leaving Gotenks, I think it was the day that he was like, I need to test Gotenks. I was like, cool, I'm gonna test Sin, and then The best part about Gotenks is that every time somebody touches your 6-drop, you're like, oh, I'm going to draw 2 cards. And Sin just smiles in negated skills. It's like, I'll play the 6-drop. Wait, I can't swing with it, or he's just going to kill it with haze. And it's like, yep, I'm going to kill it with haze, and you're not going to get anything for it. And I'm going to feel so good. It's like, makes me so happy.
Mhm.
And yeah, it feels good in that case. But I think that day of testing might alone have convinced Bergie to just
Oh,
avoid
no, it was
Gotenks.
me playing against 3 Sin Shenron decks at locals the next day. That's
Oh,
I
really
just
what
want
drove me down
all
with
our
it.
listeners to feel my pain and Dane's pain between or Sin's Shenron teammate and or Invoker teammate. There's just a lot of soul crushing sadness. So just pity Dane and Robert. You know, maybe we'll have a GoFundMe.
I don't mind the Sin and Invoker matchups. I'll be honest. Like I don't feel like I was tortured playing into those. At no point was I like, well, I'm not winning this game. You know what I mean?
The only time Dane has ever felt tortured was Piccolo.
Yeah, no, 100%. Like that's not even funny, and don't bring it up because like I don't appreciate it. So.
To be fair, Robert didn't know what the activate main on Sin was, where you tap 6, until he was playing a game against me at my house, sitting across from me, which made it so much better to do it in person. And I was like, okay, so I'm gonna tap 6, and he was like, just kind of gave me a look. And I was like, picked up my drop and I start counting. I'm like 1, 2, 3, 4. He's like, wait, what's happening right now? And it's like, the activate main on Sin, you tap 6, you play 7 dragons. He's like, okay, cool. I scoop. No, I'm done. Like, I'm not gonna win this game. Like, he just immediately quit.
It sucked so bad because I had my Vegito SCR in my rainbow deck and I thought I was going to get the W. I was ready to go off, and then he's just like, yeah, I'm just going to play all these things. And I was like, where is it? And he's like, on my leader. I'm like, no. Like, where is it? He's like, yeah, it's an ability on my leader. And I'm like, let me see that card.
And then he needed clarification because basically he was like, so what happens? So you can only do that once? I was like, just once per turn. And he was like, wait, it's not like a once per game effect?
No.
Nope. If you kill them all on turn 6, I play them all on turn 7.
Board wipe. Well, hope you have more of those.
Yeah, you got a board wipe every turn. So if those are the best decks, right? I don't necessarily know there's anything that's not being represented per se. I know Bergie thinks SS3 should be more represented. I think honestly that could just be a product of people are just like Soul Striker, best blue leader, play Soul Striker. Because Bergie as the resident SS3 guy, what's the difference between SS3 and Soul Striker, in your opinion?
It plays SS4 Vegeta, Master Roshi, Baby Son Gohan, Baby's Minion, Ready to Rumble, that kind of stuff. Just kind of, I do everything on my turn and on your turn, sort of like that our turn mentality. But I believe this one's our turn mentality just has a better my turn rather than Baby's just our turn. Like, you do so much on your turn alongside your opponents. Like, you can go into 6-drop Vegeta, draw 4 cards, or 6-drop Roshi, 25 dual attack crit that bottoms 2 cards, and at the end of the turn you draw 1. Like, that card's insane, and it just it can like carry you through green. I think that being able to just tap out and be fine and do things like Booney skill and just restand 4 and then go Ready to Rumble, your turn's done, good luck. Like, things like that just make it feel so much more better, in my opinion. Yes, English, hard, I don't care.
Yeah, I followed that though, that beginning bit where you were like, your turn is our turn, but your turn's better than on my turn, on your turn, on our turn. I actually followed it and I was like, that made sense.
We talked about Rap God for like 5 minutes in the beginning.
Yeah. I mean, other than SS3 though, is there anything that actually like isn't represented that you think should be?
Broly. Like, I think that once people get more promos, it'll be like up there. Same with Majin Vegeta, actually. I think the promo for Majin Vegeta is gonna help that all out. I agree with Dane. That deck is really strong.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think Majin Vegeta is gonna benefit from access to the promo and access to the expansion.
Yep.
Vegeta, or Boo. I think that's the biggest difference. Is the Broly is interesting though, because like it still feels like at times if it falls in that classic trap of Gohan and even the old Green Broly engine, which is you have that moment in the game where you just win or lose. Like, it doesn't feel like it feels like there's a moment where it's like, this is the turn I win. And if you don't win, then you almost just automatically lose, because red doesn't have, other than Topo, and even Topo in the format currently is not a great answer to a lot of decks.
Yeah.
The issue is like, it has that issue that red always has, which is once you pass, if you didn't win, there's not a lot you can do. You kind of just lose, because most decks have enough options to put enough pressure back on you that the clapback is so bad for Broly. Whereas a lot of decks have, it's like, I pushed hard this turn and they can clap back, but they have cards that just stop things. Whereas Broly just doesn't really have a good way to stop that. There's no good way to like protect itself if it loses, especially because a lot of decks, when they push for game, can do it on 3 or 4 life and then have some wiggle room. Whereas Broly, a lot of times it's like, okay, everything's set up, I'm ready to go, I have a ton of cards, I can rip their hand. It's like, cool, well, I hope you win, because you've only got 1 life left. So if you don't win, you're in big trouble. Like, that's the classic like aggro to win mentality, is that like you can just lose. So Broly's such an interesting deck because it falls into that. If the meta's ready for it, I just don't know how it is a powerhouse. I think it's just
yeah. Do we want to? So actually, this is kind of this caveats into the what I want to talk like the expansions and the new sets and how the meta is going to change with those and our thoughts. But if you guys still want to talk current decks, let me know, because I can save it.
We can.
All right, cool.
Segue us.
So segueing then with the changes that will come with the expansion packs and Draft Box 6, I think Broly's going to be like a constant, right? There's not a whole lot that they could give it to make it better without breaking it. Like, if you give it too many, like, if you were to give it like a Trunks, like the blue Trunks coming out with the expansion, that makes like the Trunks lead better. If you'd give it something like that, that's like, oh, this is like the blocker that Broly needed that gets to restand once per turn, whatever it is that gives it survivability, which is kind of like its crux, right? I think that it's going to kind of go the way of Green Broly, where you can toy with it a little bit, but like it is what it is. And it's probably never going to be like a consistently top deck, because once the population of the game learns how to play into, like, I feel like a lot of people knew how to play into Green Broly and survive. And I feel like once that happens, it's going to be a fun deck. It's going to be a really good deck. I think it is stronger than Green Broly, like, comparatively within their respective formats, right? Like, I think Red Broly is just a better thought out, built out, and adaptable like engine to have, but I still don't see it as being like an amazing deck. It probably is underrepresented for sure because of the promos, but I don't think it's necessarily going to be just every top 8 you see 1 or 2. I don't think so, but I could be totally wrong too.
No, Dan, I agree with you, because I think, we talked about Sin having a lot of answers, and Sin shuts down Broly between the skill negate and then the Vegeta unison. Like, I don't think that Red Broly can beat Sin, just flat out, because the whole engine shut down.
I think it can go fast enough. Like when we were testing, I think I didn't get wiped or swept by you, Blake, but I mean, you crushed my soul like the majority of games. But playing Broly into Sin, it wasn't like unwinnable. I knew I needed like a good hand, and I needed to go really, really fast. So
yeah, I think honestly, like, the thing that makes the thing that's most interesting about the existence of Red Broly now is the fact that chain decks are so different now as far as like how they're interacting with the meta, because the reason that Gotenks, in spite of it being a really linear deck, can continue to perform is because it has such crazy hand recursion. So if nothing else, if it can just get swings in, it's always going to have good combo power, and it's always going to be able to play a new Gotenks out every turn. And I think sometimes that's the way that they balanced Broly is good, but I also think it hurts Broly in the fact that, like, if a deck can consistently just keep killing its pieces and keep giving it issues and messing with its chain, then what ends up happening with like the Broly swap chain is, in order to get that to play that second one, if they KO a Broly, right, is now you have to pitch one to play one, so you end up going minus a battle card and -2 in hand. And if a deck can just push back hard enough and survive a turn, Broly ends up going into its turn where it wants to win, getting negated on that one swing it had to have, and it goes into its defensive turn with like 4 cards in hand, and the other player is just fine. And because they've got more resources, because interrupting the chain creates more issues for Broly because there's so many interruptions now. I think that's the biggest difference between like old chain decks and these new ones, is that chain decks and swap decks used to create problems in the meta if they weren't really well balanced. And even then, most of them got hit in some way, shape, or form. But now, like swap decks, all of that stuff seems way more fair because every color has so many answers now. Like every color has access to a good answer to a chain piece or a swap piece. So I think, to your point, Dane, like when players know how to play it, everyone has access to the tools to combat those decks, and it ends up making. But it's the same reason that like you see some of this stuff coming in the expansion that helps boost some of these like fringe decks, and it's something that Bandai's doing well. Is those decks were too susceptible. Like Gotenks, yellow Gotenks was way too susceptible to counterplay for the Gotenks engine to ever be relevant. Some of the decks need like I think the Majin Vegeta getting access to the other Buu is a really big
Super
boost
excited for that,
because it makes a huge difference in its ability to be consistent. It's like it's a consistency maker, right?
the fresh maker. Yep,
The fresh maker. Because it's just like the garlic. I know that's one thing that Bergie was saying. He was talking to some of the guys about locally, is the garlic expansion card alone could push garlic up a tier because it gives garlic access to a turn 2 play that it didn't have before. So do you think with the expansion coming, do you think that there are decks that are affected enough by it that push them into the meta that make them relevant? Bergie, what do you think?
Besides garlic, Gogeta. I think Gogeta will actually be pretty good with that new card. Like, just establishing something big is always good. Like the 30, 35k triple strike dual attack is strong. The other one that says when you swing at a battle card, you restand it and you can swing at active battle cards is just insane. Like, it just is clearing the field every turn. And if you don't have anything on table, you crit 2 life, which is super strong because you're gonna have double strike and triple strikes coming at you all game because that's what Gogeta does. And overall, I think that having another Union fusion target is just super huge for the deck because sometimes you could just get clogged with a bunch of pieces but nothing to piece into. So overall, I'm super excited for that deck. Trunks is going to get a lot better, I think, with that new card. Like being able to just energy ramp so fast into your boss monster is going to be huge for that deck. And yeah, that's it.
I'm going to talk about the Toa because I'm really trying hard to make Rainbow work. And the most effective way seems to be kind of with the Dark Dragon Balls. Currently, I'm using the Mechie, the black Mechie, because he can dig for balls. And also, he's actually super useful against
a lot of these
linear decks. Yeah, with their swaps and things like that. So being able to call out, Sin Shenron or even Garlic or Red Broly's.
Majin Buu 3. God.
Oh yeah, I did do that. Yeah. And it's funny when I play Dane and call that, I'm like, so what is it, a Majin Buu or a Majin Buu Xeno? And Dane will always be like, it's a Xeno or not, and let me get away with it. But it's actually super. It's a super strong card, but then it also helps me find the Dragon Balls within my deck. But I think the Toa will help because it actually allows you to pull Dragon Balls from the drop area, which is something that Mechie's Activate main doesn't let you do. And then I also think that if you have a black leader, you can pull Xeno cards out by pitching the Dragon Ball if you pay 2. And there are a couple of Xeno, like the Xeno Bardock from the anniversary set, the 8 blocker, and then also the Xeno Frieza, so that's yellow and green. If they release more Xeno cards, you could eventually get kind of a rainbow effect with a black leader that way, which I think is cool. So looking forward to it. Again, I don't think it'll be tier 1. I don't think you'll necessarily see it in meta, but I'm working real hard to try to get this rainbow thing rolling. But as I think about it, there's different. But I was looking through, and there is only because it has to be 4 or less. There aren't a lot of targets there other than the double strike Frieza. The Majin Boos don't work. There's a couple of other green ones with Dabura. So I went through Shenron's lair and I was looking at it. So it's not a super exciting idea at the moment, but you never know what they're going to release. So I'm hopeful.
Yeah. So speaking of what they're going to release, this is actually releasing on release day for Draft Box 6. So what are the cards or the archetypes that you guys are excited for that are coming in this set in Draft Box?
Vegito.
Vegeta is so strong.
That's not an archetype. I'm excited for the Bardock's crew archetype, and I'm excited to build it in Vegito.
I'm going to make a Demigra deck just to spite you because it's totally an archetype. I got my SPRs from set 3 or something ready to go. Temporal Darkness Demigra. Let's do it. I'm going to overrun twice.
Cool. Blue Skillis looks like a fun deck.
Yeah. Blue Skillis.
I didn't see very much that overly excited me from this draft box. I'm not gonna lie. You guys super excited for everything I could tell, but I mean King Piccolo looks cool, or Piccolo Jr. Giant Force. He looks like fun.
Slug.
Gogeta.
Yeah, so that's
Slug is fun.
Yep. I was gonna say so King Piccolo, the new ruler, and then Piccolo Jr., the Unison. I'm gonna play those in Broly for sure, and I'm excited.
Personally, I'm excited for the Hirudegarn archetype that's coming. Basically, just the Hirudegarn, because I'm gonna pair it with the old Revive Coup leader, because nothing says miserable play experience for an opponent like swinging with the 30k, saying, "Okay, cool, you have to kill this before you can attack me or deal damage to me, and then when you kill it, I can pitch a card, put him back out, draw 2 cards, and oh yeah, he's a blocker. So I'm going to go ahead and block your next attack, and when I do, I get to choose a card from your hand and discard it." So he's like blue-green Sin. It's amazing. I'm just happy for it. So
I'll create another Sin Shenron for Blake.
It's amazing that Blake has friends, like real life friends. I too am surprised.
Nah, you survived the whole Piccolo hand destruction, Robert. Blake can survive Sin.
Yeah. The Piccolo incident of 2019. We'll call it we'll forever refer to it as the Piccolo incident of 2019.
Legit.
See, I'll never know what that was like. I dodged it by a month.
Yeah, Bergie dodged it by a month. It was almost the end before the beginning.
Yeah. That was painful. But yeah, no, the whole Bardock's crew engine seems super, super interesting in Vegito, just because of the blockers and the inherent protection, and then also Xeno functioning fairly well in Vegito as it is. Zeno functioning in Vegito pretty well as it is. You know how good it's gonna feel to Zeno energy into an evolve target for one of the it's gonna be dope. I'm gonna do it just so I can do that.
It's going to feel more amazing when you hit that Tora that, if you have a Bardock's crew in play, ignores energy exhaust. You're just did I just get a blue-yellow in the energy too?
Yeah.
And then you can pay that energy to evolve over top of it. It's everything that could go right. That's a moment where you charge your Zeno energy and you're just everything's coming up, Dane.
Yeah.
Just the only way to respond to it.
Coming up.
Dude, Legends Origin is so strong.
Oh, I know. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's awesome art too.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a fan.
Yeah. I think most of the art in the draft box is actually good art, right? There are a couple that I wasn't in love with. The Yamcha Eye for an Eye looks really, really weird. It's one of those classic it feels like a lot of times in Dragon Ball Super they'll update some of the older art to look better on a card, and they took that thing straight out of some janky image where he's just the art is super
flying
not
kick.
defined.
It's a flying kick, and it's for sure from Dragon Ball.
It just looks so bad. It looks so weird. Looking. But there's a lot of really good art in it. I think the interesting thing that's going to come out of it, right, is the fact that there's nothing in this draft box that is a Draw Ape or a Bardock Ape or an Obuni or a Ribrianne. everything in this draft box is just good. Like it's generic good stuff, or it's very archetype specific, because a lot of the Harudegarn stuff that says like if you have a green leader, it's tied to effects on other Harudegarn stuff in the same way that a lot of the Bardock stuff is like, oh, this card would be good in another archetype if it wasn't tied to these two things. And it feels like they nailed a draft box.
Yep, I think they did really good with this draft box. I would agree.
Mhm.
There's nothing that's gonna make this like a buyout. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
I need to buy 5 draft boxes so I can get my SR that's broken for my deck. There's none of that. Like, there's some good cards, but
There's enough.
I might even draft with this.
Dude, I'd be down.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah, you could actually theoretically draft with this box. I think I would be very confused about all the color stuff. I'd be bad at it, but I would do it just because why not?
Speaking of draft box, can I formally
Wait,
come out and
privilege.
like, I was wrong. Maya's not that bad. I hate that it exists. I still think it's bad game design, but me and Dane sat down and tested it, and it's not that bad.
There was
There
was a lot of vindication when Bergie was just
I
like,
was
yeah,
so
mine's not that
excited.
good. I was just like,
that's why I'm quiet tonight.
That's right.
I just want to come out and say it's interesting to me. I'm excited about Slug, namely because it's green-yellow successor, which is, basically Surge Cell, which you all know I'm passionate about. And so I think it'll support Surge Cell. It could also be played with the Slug leader. But it doesn't seem like they're giving up on kind of dual color yet, because there are significant cards that could basically reinvent Cell Surge, which also makes me excited. I also like the bond mechanic. Piccolo assimilated ability might be back in play and things like that. Super strong card. So if it can stay alive, there could be some fun things to do with it.
I think they found a good way to balance it, in that they made a lot of the they made random energy exhaust ignoring cards that say like if you have a Bardock Screw in play, this ignores energy exhaust. Or in the Harudegarn archetype, the thing that I like that they really did was they made the Tapion, Fate of a Hero, a blue or a green. I think it's the first card. It's the first one I've ever seen in the game where you get a choice of which color you pay. So it makes that card better in a multicolor deck because you're not so tied to charging multicolor energy. You can choose to build the deck more blue or more green and still play the card, because it allows
I actually didn't notice that. What's it called?
So Tapion, Fate of a Hero. So the card itself costs 1 blue and 1 green to play if you're playing it for the 2. But when you do it for the effect, it's actually a really interesting card because you pay 1 blue or 1 green and you discard the card and you get 2 options on effects. You can either draw a card and play it from the drop at the end of your turn, or you can activate the sealed music box, which is the field card that the deck wants to run. So it's an interesting card because it does a lot of things for the deck, but they made it way more viable because a lot of times in these colors, you feel locked into playing 2 colors. You have to charge blue and you have to charge green if you're playing blue-green. But in Harudegarn, the build that I have so far, I don't know that I would ever actually need to charge a blue. I could play the entire deck charging green, even though it's a blue-green deck, but I have blue-green in the deck for the revive mechanic on the 9-drop Harudegarn. So it's nice because I can charge all green, but I'm not locked into the effect on Tapion being only green. Early game, if I need to charge a blue, I can charge a blue and it doesn't destroy my game plan, and I can still play Tapion turn 1 and get my sealed music box or play him from the drop and draw a card and do some cycling. And it allows some flexibility in the deck. And I hope that that's what they stick with going forward with multicolor stuff, is giving some more options to decks to make them a little bit faster without making them broken.
I did a quick scan, and my eyes aren't great, but I do believe that is the only card in Draft Box 6 that gives you the option of colors. So that is a very cool effect.
I just thought of a really cool combo in blue, yellow Vegito that oh my dude, yes. Okay, cool. You can,
you're gonna leave more listeners hanging.
No. So you can Zeno. So I think you run with the apes, right? You run Planet Vegeta. You can Zeno energy to throw whatever you want in there, and then if it happens to be any of the evolved targets, Planet Vegeta pull the ape that matches that evolve target. Right?
Yeah.
Can I go on my Surge Leader rant?
Bergie would like to talk about, I know we talked about earlier, Bergie believes that Surge Leaders are not dead. So Bergie's going to give us the opportunity to hear him out and then potentially rebut him if he needs rebutted.
Alrighty, hear me out. I could see one of two options. Or they either print multicolor leaders with restrictions on sparking negates and basically doing what Destiny did with the restricted list, where it's if you run D Magic, you can't run Shocking Death Ball in your deck. Or I could just see them making the leaders like a little subpar, but allowing them to have access to all the card pool. Like, I could totally see them making a blue-green Hrudigar and Surge Leader that has something like KO one of your cards, draw a card, and pick up a life. If you draw a card, discard a card or something. Like something to feel their engine a little bit more. And I could definitely see the multicolor aspect coming into it better, just based off of the amount of multicolor we're seeing in the set.
Bergie, I guess my question would be that when there were Surge Leaders, like for example, I've run Surge Cell for a long time, and I even ran Piccolo back then. I don't think sparking negates were necessarily the problem. There's usually a better one, so I usually run Shocking Death Ball and Cell Surge. Not necessarily because I think it's better than Time Magic, but because I need more green. And then when I ran Piccolo, I usually ran Dimension Magic just because it's so ridiculously strong compared to Shocking Death Ball. So I guess, like, yes, having an expanded card pool is obviously strong, but I wouldn't necessarily put it as a limit on sparking negates, because I don't think that's the specific problem, because you'll pick the better one.
Yeah, the Surge, because the Surge Leaders, like, that's not what was broken about them, I guess.
I think the argument for Surge Leaders is the fact that a lot of times when we make the argument is, I think Bergie is honestly probably right. I think Surge Leaders could totally come back, or some form of multicolor leader, even if they don't use the Surge effect. I think if you really look at it, right, a lot of times people get focused in on the 4 set 9 Surge Leaders, and that's like the only ones they acknowledge as being Surge Leaders. They talk about Surge Coup, Invoker, they talk about Piccolo and Surge Cell, but then I think people forget a lot of times about Broly and Kale because
Kefla.
Kale. Yeah, Kefla. Sorry.
Yep.
I think they forget about those because like they're not broken and they weren't connected to that same set in the same way, and they weren't as like much a part of that meta. And they've always been kind of more fringy decks as far as the other ones were like, that was like the heyday, right? That was like Surge Leaders were the meta. But then what's interesting about it is if you really look at it, Surge Cell and weirdly enough Invoker don't inherently as leaders feel broken. They feel very balanced in what they do. Like the Invoker effect is strong, but it's not broken. It's not Surge Coup broken or Piccolo broken, where it's just like, man, pitch a card, discard 2, suck it. It's, or pitch a card, I'm gonna play I'm gonna play energy. And it's like they didn't do something super broken. Like Invoker's like, I'm gonna get some cards back. You're like, okay, yeah, I mean that's good, but it's not broken. It's not like negate the skills or kill something like Surge Coup did to the point that it was broken. It's like, so if they molded some around the archetype of like Cell, because Cell is really good, but then they really balanced it. And it's like, hey, guess what? These effects are really good, and its stall mechanic is great. Also, you don't get to draw cards. So once you're awakened, prepare to be sad, because your hand size is just going to keep on shrinking, and there's nothing you can do about it. And it's like, if they build Surge Leaders like that, where like the unawakened side is really strong and the effects are strong, but they balance it with a lack of draw or an inability to do something else well, I think it's totally fine that they have access to multiple negates and multiple sparkings and stuff like that. Because to Robert's point, I don't think that the access to D-Magic and Shocking Death Ball was the issue for Piccolo, because actually the issue with Piccolo was the fact that it didn't need Shocking Death Ball because it had freaking Sacrifice. That was way worse, because that doesn't require sparking. They just go Namekian, take a life, negate it. You're like, God Almighty, it's just like rage just ensued because they just sparking to D Magic, and then they threw a Sacrifice at you for sparking, and they hit you for something else. You're just like, Everything about this is wrong. Everything.
Yeah, and I do love the surge mechanic. I think it adds a level of complexity to the game, just because, to your point, all your draw is on your unawakened side, and when you awaken, you get your surge, but usually there's a limit of, well, you only get it to use it twice. You have to be at X life, and so I think they could balance surge leaders again. I do love the surge mechanic. I do think that the abilities are really strong, but if you compare, again, Soul Striker, kind of the best general leader right now, they get to draw a card, untap 2 energy every turn, whereas I get surge abilities that I get for 2 turns, where I basically have to close out the game. So it definitely puts a timer and applies some pressure to you as the player of the surge to get the ball rolling.
Well, and if you think about it, right, like Piccolo felt oppressive a lot of times, but it was because the draw mechanic felt so good compared to the field, was that they were just drawing so many cards and they weren't interacting with you and they were just hanging out. But if you're being honest, right now in the meta, at times, if you're the wrong deck, that can be Vegito. Like if you don't have a good answer in a way to like rest a blocker, remove a blocker without killing it, you basically are just like, hey, guess what? I'm going to swing. Cool, I'm going to block her, and then I'm going to draw a card and stand in energy. It's like Vegito can basically go into a turn tapped out and cycle so many things. And unlike some of these other leaders where they've added the like take down to 6 life balance, Vegito's just like, oh, guess what? I awakened on 8 life and I get to stay at 8 life for as long as I want to. And it's interesting because they've made some leaders now that are actually probably more problematic, because people talk about all the time, right? If anything, Vegex might actually be the leader that's the most concerning long term in the game's health, because it basically makes every other black leader irrelevant. Why would you play anything but Vegex? Like
yeah,
what black leader
they
does something
tried
better?
with like the most recent set, right, to give like
Yeah.
Overwhelm a ton of support, and it's just like, I mean, there's too many negates to play Overwhelm safely, and especially with blue ramp.
Just take the best Overwhelm cards and you put them in Vegex.
Right.
It's like, oh, man on a mission, that seems good. Well, guess what? I can do it turn 2.
Although I am super amped about trying to run the man on the mission and the TP overwhelm cards with Demigra and just trying to overwhelm the shit out of you. So I got the TP cards coming. It's going to be super
the
exciting.
issue, though, Robert, is just filling your drop area enough to overwhelm twice a turn.
Don't shit on my parade.
Demigra does it okay because on the awaken side it brings stuff back. So
Yeah, and also
Well,
you can overwhelm
I think that the real issue is if you're going to exist in a meta where Sin exists and you can't remove Sin, because then when you play those overwhelm cards that are double crit, they're not double crit anymore. They're just single strikes.
Both of you be shitting on my parade, all right?
You know what?
I'm all for it,
I'm
Robert.
just trying to be a realist.
But what I will say, Bergie, to your point is I think part of it will be having to leverage like reluctant reinforcements and kind of cheating it out with some of the Vegex or the Vegex tricks of the trade in order to fill your drop and your warp to go back and forth and overwhelm twice. It'll take some time to set up. I'm not sure if it'll work, but it seems fun, so I'll give it a go. Since Blake is doing well in the meta, I can goof off now.
That's not how the meta pack worked, Robert.
Yeah, the meta pack doesn't.
Like, doesn't mean
the
one
meta
of you
pack
needs
works
to
how
do
I
well.
wanted
We
to
get
work.
all of us
Blake
into the top
has
8.
fulfilled us, and now I'm playing Rainbow, Goku's Lineage, and Demigra.
just immediately off the meta pact.
I still have Vegex. Still playing Vegex on Saturday.
All right.
Yeah, we'll have hopefully this next week we have to put together a tournament report for somebody or for everybody, right? So that's
I didn't get in it.
special. I didn't either. They told me I couldn't come back. They'd kick me out. So
You're like, you got too many prizes already, son.
I didn't get an invite. I was sad. But then I realized it was my wife's birthday this Saturday, so I wasn't gonna go and do anything anyway there. So
After the fact,
I did. I actually sent other day and actually asked me. He's like, "Hey, you playing at the store, champ?" And I was like, no, because it's my wife's birthday. Unfortunately, I didn't realize that until after I asked her, because I didn't do the thing. I was like, "Can I play at the store, champ, next Saturday?" And she's like, "You mean the day after my birthday?" And I immediately like the feeling of Andy Dwyer when he's like, like it hit me. I was like, oh no, it's like Riggerts.
I have poked the bear with a stick.
Riggerts. So yeah, we're making that up this week, so it's okay. We're all good. But do you guys have anything else? Do you have any closing arguments or any closing points? No? All right.
I
Well,
don't think so.
This better have been
seventh
recorded.
time is the charm. This is the podcast. This is the one everyone gets to hear. So thank you everyone for joining us. Remember, if you haven't, to subscribe, follow us. If you want to hit the bell, it'll let you know when we go live with anything. And we are excited. I guess if you've made it this far, we forgot to mention it earlier, but we're excited because Dane has an awesome setup so we can remote record games. It's going to be amazing. It's going to look awesome.
I'm gonna quick just because I'm proud of it. I'm just gonna quick tease it. I'm gonna flip it over on stream right now. Oh, that's what it's gonna look like.
This is how you're gonna see my crappy homebrews.
Yeah,
You're gonna get
Dude,
to you're gonna
you're gonna watch me
experience
stomp
Robert's
Robert without the
rainbow
screen.
majesty on the screen in the comfort of your own home. You can sit on your couch and eat Doritos and watch Robert's rainbow majesty try to rainbow burgie to death.
I just want to say that Rainbow got 2 victories the other night, back to back. It was high flying.
Against what?
times. Garlic and Soul Striker. Oh.
Yep.
Legit
With or without
Soul
the EX
Striker.
card?
Legit.
I mean,
And Garlic with the promo.
yeah.
And
How long
he
until you
tried
try
to
your
Xeno
Goku
me.
hit, Dane?
I'm gonna give you
And-
the win because it. Yeah, I'm just not gonna. Yep. It was legit Soul
I
Striker.
legitimately won. I'm not
You
going to say
did.
why.
You
But
legitimately
I
won against that
legitimately won.
deck. Yes.
And then I beat Garlic even
Okay,
with
if you get
Xeno
one counter.
because I had 4 negates in my hand.
Yeah, he drew 4 Roshis in one turn, and I couldn't beat him. I was like, okay, he negated me 6 times. I think I can Xeno and win. And then he was like, Roshi. So it was sad, but you will get to see more games. Bergie is excited to baby SCR us, and we are excited to.
OG Victory Strike.
Robert's gonna OG victory strike
Mine's
somebody.
not as expensive, but I
Ape
like it.
Goku lineage right here.
It's the hotness, and you'll see it on stream, or you'll see it on our channel.
We should start.
Maybe one
streaming
day we'll set up a
DBS.
stream.
I was
We
gonna
could
say,
totally
should just
stream it.
start
Yeah,
streaming
of course.
DBS
we could
too.
stream it and hang out and play games. It would be fun one night. We could do it live. So, but thank you everybody for joining us. Subscribe, follow. Thanks guys for hanging out.
Yeah, Blake's actually good at the game, unlike myself. Bergie's good too. Dane's good too, unlike myself.
Mm,
All right, guys.
Someday. Metapact.
thanks, guys.
Peace.